Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and Minmatar people. It is the last match of the night, match 16 of day 1 of the finals of the Alliance tournament. We have Atlas Alliance versus the important Internet Spaceship League. And wow, we've got a couple of pretty mixed setups here. We've got Atlas Alliance fielding 2 Proteus, a Flycatcher, an Eos, a Dramiel, their flagship, a Blaghorn, a Balghorn, 3 Ishkas, and a Guardian.
And from important Internet Spaceship League, we have a Dominic's Navy issue, 2 Drakes, a Ferox, a Basilisk, 2 Blackbirds, 2 Ishkers, and a Jaguar. And an interesting spread of ships for important Internet Spaceship League. Kind of reminiscent of the Electus Matari fit without as much fail.
Yeah, I'm quite like an Atlas's loadout, to be honest. I like the flagship as well, Le Blaghorn. We shall refer to it as from now on.
Blaghorn, yes.
It is a French Balghorn.
Well, hopefully he doesn't run away. He is quite expensive. He is quite expensive.
Yeah, he is quite expensive. We're looking at what, 11 to 15?
13 to 15.
13 to 15 bill, roughly. So yeah, it's going to be an expensive loss if Atlas do take it. But I'd say I'd put my money on Atlas in this one.
It looks like Atlas has a pretty cohesive setup. I like it a lot. Only using those assault frigates for cheap cheap drone points, getting five light drones out of them relatively cheaply is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be good to see what drones they actually field, whether they go for the EC300s or whether they go for a set of light scouts, maybe warriors or hobgoblins. We can see there on the tactical overlay at the bottom of the screen, Atlas have elected to come in roughly about 40, well, yeah, about 40 clicks up from the beacon. They've got 2 of their Ishkas, I believe they are, right off at the back at long range. Or is that is actually the Flycatcher and the Dramiel, apologies for that.
An important Internet Spaceship League have warped the majority of their team at 0, with the remainder at 10, 20, and 30 respectively.
Immediately drones on the field. Yep, Atlas straight away. Warrior 2s, yep, they've gone with light scout drones and Warrior 2s, Hobgoblin 2s as well out from the Dramiel. Rack of Hammerhead 2s out from the larger craft, the Proteus on the Balghorn, I believe it is.
Veron, do you think the Ferox is a Blairox?
Could
it be a Blairox?
It could potentially be, unless it's one of those awesome laser Feroxes that everyone loves.
Kill 2 is pretty infamous for the laser Ferox.
It's actually an autocannon Ferox. I can see it on my screen. Yes, it's an AC Ferox.
That is amazing. The Ferox is really resilient. It can fit all kinds of different weapon systems and generally fail wholly at every one of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of very few ships in the Caldari lineup that has a really decent turret-based system to run from. But some people some really out-of-the-box setups on it. Of course, it isn't going to need any cap to be able to fire.
That is true.
So it's going to be doing pretty well in that respect. We can see that the Guardian immediately for Atlas taking quite a significant chunk of armor damage.
It appears so. You're going to see that damage come in volleys as the majority of the damage from the important Internet Spaceship League, who I'm going to call big deal now, will come from missiles as they do take some time to travel to target. You will see that does damage come in spurts. It looks like Atlas is trading tit for tat with the big deal Basilisk versus their Guardian. The Guardian seems to be holding on much more strongly than the big deal Basilisk, which should go down momentarily.
Yeah, I think, well, it is in fact down. Yeah, we've got also the Atlas Alliance Balghorn, Le Blaghorn, the French Balghorn, deep into armor for Atlas. Their flagship, roughly 13 to 15 billion worth of hardware there.
It's interesting to note that Uki, no stranger to these high-stressful Alliance tournament situations. I believe he was one of the killers of T-Rex Thork's Imperial issue Apocalypse. I believe we watched that this morning, right?
Yeah, I believe he was. I can't remember offhand, but the name definitely rings a bell, and I think he may have been part of Cult of War back then. And he may have potentially been one of the people who killed the Impoc, which was at the time piloted by Riem Severe, which was way back in Alliance Tournament 3. Seems like so long ago.
It was. Were you there? Were you writing it on stone tablets then?
I was watching, and we've lost the Guardian for Atlas Alliance. The Guardian is down, so no logistics left on the field.
This could turn into a hell of a slugfest at the moment. We're seeing a lot more damage potential, at least at close range, out of the Atlas team. perhaps that Ferox might have a command mod in the high slot. That might be why he's so concerned with his cap usage.
It's interesting to see actually that the Atlas Alliance flagship is only fielding one Centis X-type large armor repairer. He's damage controlled, T2 hardeners, a single plate and 3 Tech 1 large Trimark armor pumps, so he's not going to have a massive tank despite having a very expensive armor repairer. So they're going to need to get as much DPS as they possibly can from Big Deal off the field if they want to hold on to that very expensive flagship.
That's true. We've seen teams like Circle of Two who have lost their flagships previously. Once again, when a flagship does die, it is not eligible to be used again throughout the tournament. And we're looking like we have a smart bomb go off from the Atlas Balgorn Uki, clearing some of the drones off of him from the Big Deal team.
Yep, that would be one large Trusantia large EMP smart bomb that he has fitted. He also has 2 very expensive energy neutralizers fitted. One Chelm's modified heavy newt and one Draclea's modified heavy newt. So he's going to be doing a lot of damage with his cap warfare. It's just a case of he needs to try and stay on the field for as long as possible.
Doesn't look like he's going to be able to hold on.
He's going to go down. This is a big loss for Atlas because if they do make it through, if they do finish these off, they can't field this flagship again. So they're going to be at a severe disadvantage when some of the guys who can still field them are going to come through.
And Uki explodes in a glorious fire, 15 billion ISK, now possibly sitting in a can on the field. We have one Blackbird down from Big Deal. Essentially more expensive, that flagship more expensive than the entire rest of, than all the other ships remaining on the field at this time.
I believe this might actually be the second most expensive loss in the tournament behind the Frecky that was lost today.
That is true, and actually it's kind of an interesting polarity between those. The Frecky worth 30 bill as a frigate and the Le Blaghorn worth roughly 15 bill as a flagship, so it's an interesting disparity between the values of ships and their size. Really, size doesn't always matter for them.
Indeed, and being only 5'6", I appreciate that sentiment.
I totally commiserate with you. Not obviously not physically. I'm quite a bit larger than you are.
Yeah, the Blackbird there for a Big Deal for an important in that Spaceship League also going down. It looks as if Atlas have this firmly in their command, but I have a feeling that the loss of their flagship, quite carelessly I would say in this match, is probably going to come back to bite them a bit later in the tournament.
I believe so. They lose the utility and the, oh my god, surprise factor of having that ship on the field. I'm not sure necessarily if the surprise would have really played into an overall strategy. Maybe in the qualifying rounds in these first round of matches. At this point, the teams that survive to move on into the top 16 really should have the presence of mind not to freak out at the presence of a very expensive ship on the field.
Yeah, it's wow. Last Drake remaining now for important Internet Spaceship League.
I love seeing Drakes die, don't you?
I always do. It's always good to see. You can see there his shield is just absolutely melting under all those drones. He's got an absolute swarm of Atlas Alliance drones around him now. He's taking blaster fire from both those Proteus and the EOS. He's going to be down before long. But
I'd be surprised if damage didn't stop relatively soon on that Drake. I mean, Thresh Avery and his Flycatcher most likely to die, but as soon as this match ends, the loot on the field dies.
Yeah,
hopefully they got their flagship loot back. Maybe not thought about it.
I would hope that Atlas didn't just do the most stupid thing ever, kill that last ship and leave their wreck for their flagship on the field.
I truly hope not. That would be very, very poor performance by them.
Looks like important Internet Spaceship League are out and we can hand back to Soundwave, I think.